Wow, that was amazing, watching the Prime Minister of Israel do PowerPoint karaoke. PowerPoint karaoke, for those of you who don't know, is it's a fun game we play where you put up slides and the speaker doesn't know what the slides are and then the slides change. Yeah, well, you know, innovation, right? That's what we're here for. Okay, so keeping in that theme, please again remain in your seats. The protocol does not allow anyone to leave this room, so please remain in your seats. I would like to call on stage back Mr. Yigal, please, the General Director of the Israel, I never know how to pronounce it, National Cyber Directorate. Close enough, right? Please join me on stage.
Okay. It's not an epidemic about the karaoke presentations, it works. Welcome again, and thank you for staying. Thank you for staying here. After the toughest position in the Cyber Week is to be the first one after the Prime Minister's talk. So I am the victim, and thank you. But you should stay even longer to what's coming after my talk. It's Mr. Deputy Secretary Dan Bruyette is going to have his kid. Worth waiting. So, you came over to see and hear about cyber. So let's talk about, let's make the clicker work. Guys. Let's talk about measles. Well, measles, a highly contagious and infectious disease. In fact, who is at risk? At risk is everyone that is not immune for a first, but also those with a weak immune system. So, what is related to do with cyber? Measles is something that we thought that passed away, but although measles has a Yiddish kind of accent to the world, it's actually a very fatal, it causes a lot of casualties around the world still in these days. And as we speak, we have numerous of outbreaks, of measles outbreaks all around the globe. And we thought it's over in the 60s, but it's still coming. So we need to find a cure. A cure, something that will take care of this epidemic. And this is how it's related to cyber, because the resemblance is high. And we see all kinds of diseases and all kinds of threats coming over with the, as we enter into the cyber. So, what are the risks or the diseases that we face in the epidemic, the cyber epidemic? If you take a look at the global risk report of the World Economic Forum just this year, you will find out that the cyber attacks is perceived, calculated risk of is perceived as maybe number 5 on the risk assessment. Which is more interesting, it's maybe number 5 in the all over risk assessment, but it's number 1 in the man-made risks. So, we understand that's a risk. That's probably the reason that you came over here. But let's deep dive into what are the risks are. So we see a lot of financial and information breach, identity theft by the dozens, As we speak, more and more identities stolen, more and more identity get breached, or user data get breached. And if we take a look at a couple of surveys, in this case by Gallup, we see that most of Americans fear from financial information cyber attack and identity theft much more than a terror attack or even diseases. So it's perceived even harder than the World Economic Forum issued before. User record leaks, well, again, as we speak, more and more. In fact, some of the numbers are amazing. We see now today, about only in January this year, you see this number, 1.76 billion of data records leaked, and that's 1 month. So it's piling up and piling up. And in fact, another numbers, 48% of all the root causes for leak of information, of data breach, comes from malicious and cyber attacks. So, another problem, another disease is the cybercrime. Cybercrime, now the numbers are about $2 trillion. Expected damage, $2 trillion. Remember the number. Try to calculate that coming out of cyber attacks. And it doesn't stop there. We see even more coming to this area. Now, the Middle East is a magnet for cyber attack. That's not new. And we see more and more vectors, threat actors playing in our playground. Some of them were shown earlier. And one of the major players is, of course, Iran. Iran, in the clear sky, one of the Israeli cyber intelligence companies, survey, as in many others, is one of the active players in cyber attacks all over the world, specifically in the Middle East. They, in fact, are more threatening our neighbors in the Gulf area than Israel, which is well protected, or more protected than the others. But as we seen in a couple of last months, with a lot of information leaked out of the Iranian cyber squad, we see how they put efforts, not just to have the traditional cyber attacks of collection data, but also for wiping. Their main purpose, as we see in the Gulf area, in Shamoon attacks and other attacks, is to cause damage. Not just to steal data, which is it's a serious thing, but they're aiming to use wipers and wiping out data and cause real damage that can cause casualties. So, new trends and TTPs also in attacking. I won't elaborate on that, just the top 6 new trends, or not so new. Well, we see the supply chain, the third-party add-ons, hitting the add-ons, for example. Ransomware, well, we still have the global or a wide attacks of ransomware, but we see more and more targeted. Targeted ransomware is a problem because they can get much more money when they attack and understand the financial capabilities of the attacked, of the victims. Hardware level, well, we see on a daily basis more and more hardware compromised to cyber attacks. We see the wipers attacks I mentioned. It's not only by Iran, it's all over the place. We saw in Latin America banks wiped out, literally, after a cyber attack. And we see 0 days and 1 days. The race is getting harder and faster. And DNS hijacking, also all these epidemics, remember, are growing larger and harder to beat. But we have, as we have in medicine, we have some antidotes. What are the antidotes in cyber? So I'll give you the Israeli model. And the Israeli model, how Israel immune and gets ready for this epidemic. Very shortly. Three-pillar-based strategy. First, technology. Well, in technology, we have a couple of solutions. First of all, it's national solutions. We use also on the private sector, every organization, every agency, every individual should protect, immune themselves, and get ready for the epidemic. But we have some national level solution because it's needed. And we deal with the ecosystem. So on the national level, two examples. One is the Cybernet. Cybernet, Prime Minister just spoke minutes ago, stood here 2 years ago and presented the new Cybernet. Back then, it was less than 200 members. Now we have about 1,000 trusted members. The Cybernet is actually a social media that connected all the CISOs, private and public sectors in Israel, to us and to themselves. And that's speeds things and info sharing, makes info sharing much more easier. And not only info sharing, we just last month opened another feature, a distribution of IOCs through the Cybernet directly to the systems of our trusted members to speed things up, to immune ourselves as faster before the outbreak hits us. Another solution that on a state level is the Troxila. Well, intimidating name, but in fact, it's a detection of defacement. Well, defacement, it's not such a critical thing. When it comes with the masses, it makes more than a nuisance. It can hurt or harm the financial trade and others. So we got sick of getting phone calls after the defacement happened, or worse, media coverage. Bad media coverage after the damage was already done. So we developed this. This mechanism is only passive, scanning all the major websites in Israel, more than 100,000. And we detect with the content change, the moment something happened that looks like a defacement, again, from the outside, passively, we see the defacement, it gives us a heads up to interact and to get into the, engage with the attacked website and to fix it. So, how it works? Pretty successfully. Every year we face what they call Op Israel. At the beginning of April, attacks against defacement attacks and DDoS attacks against Israel. You see the numbers. Last year we suffered this number of defacement. This year, after we launched the Troxila, the number dropped into nothing. In fact, insignificant. Without any significant success for the attackers, with a simple technology, simple methodology that the INCD installed. But it's not enough, and we put a lot of efforts in our ecosystem. Most of it, as the Prime Minister mentioned, concentrated in Beersheba. Who haven't yet, you should visit there and see the oasis in the desert. But the numbers, I won't repeat that as the Prime Minister stole the numbers already and showed it, but this is amazing numbers, admit it. But it's not enough. And we also ran a survey, an internal survey, and we asked a couple of hundred of Israeli companies, private sector, about the behavior, the conduct in cybersecurity. And these are the numbers. 84% of them, yes, they put in budget, all kinds of budgets, but they pay attention and resources for cybersecurity. Another 63% are doing that without having damage from cyber attacks. So 37 already have. That's the bad news. But they are doing it in advance. And 75% have cyber administrator. I'm pointing it out because it's a good signs of immuning the cyberspace, the Israel cyberspace, against the epidemics. It's not enough, but we're on the right way. We have national initiatives. The Prime Minister mentioned the civil aviation, the medical devices, and of course the insurance. We had a great panel just 2 days ago about the insurance. I won't elaborate too much on that, but as we have risk management in our own business and cars, healthcare, home, that's what we are now promoting on a national level, on a state level, hand with hand with the private sector, with the insurance industry. And we hope that we'll achieve, called it Insurance 2.0, IR team, SOS teams, means to minimize, to raise up the level of cybersecurity on the insured entities, and of course, backing them up with the fast lane financing and recovery in case of damage done. And it's a world trend, a global trend that we're getting into and hope to lead it with our friends all around the globe. On the operational side, I want to elaborate or to focus on a couple of things. The CERT, our national CERT located in Beersheba. Well, we are the first country to open an emergency line. In Israel, the emergency lines numbers are 3-digit, begins with 1. So you can call, don't do that unless you really compromise with a cyber attack, but you can call 119 24/7 hours a day and get a human answer and help and assistance. The second country that is doing that is Romania. The Minister of Communication we're glad to have him here, and it's 1911. So we're aligned in that also. So it looks like a good taxpayer's service, right? Well, it does. But in fact, it's also a good tool for us, as we are kind of CDC, the Control Disease Center. So we're looking for, remember from the first slide, the epidemics. We're looking for the first signals, the first signs of an outbreak, of a cyber epidemic in this case. So this emergency line, this calls from all the public, all the private sector, gives us a head start where the first signals of the patient zero are, and to get them and to contain it before the outbreak is too far. Another tool is the proactive. Why proactive? Take an example of this case. A published exploit, in this case a VNC exploit, that can be an open door, open port for attacks. We see it in this unit, and as fast as we can, we spread the word. We go like a showdown. We scan the Israeli cyberspace passively, and we see who is exposed. We found 23 channels exposed all around the country. So we engaged with them, and it took us 14 days to fix 90% of them. They fix it. We just pull up the flag and say, hey, be wary. They weren't aware of that. You need to immune yourself. You need to get ready. Another example is with the printers. In this case, more than 6,000 exposed machines. So we approached. It took 30 days to gain 60% fixed, but that's the right way. It takes about 60 days to weaponize a new 0-day into a cyber weapon, so we're on the right track. So those are examples of the operational. Last but not least is the international cooperation. This is why you're here, why we're here. Everyone needs to work together. And we're doing that. We're doing that with more than 85 countries, as the Prime Minister mentioned. These are some of the flags of those who work with us, but not only countries. It's very important also to work with these guys, the private sector, the MNCs, the major MNCs in cybersecurity, and NGOs, non-governmental organizations, as the World Bank, IMF, IADB, and many others that are here, and who in the audience that want and haven't yet engaged with us, we are more than welcome. So, remember, in order to get ready for the epidemic, we all must be properly immunized and work together. These are the main two factors. If we do that, we can eradicate the epidemic. Thank you very much.